Good evening, everybody. My bad. Try that again. Good evening, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle a day early. Hopefully, we're not $1 short today, like we normally are. Why do I look so red when I look at this on my phone? Am I that red? The little son playing some golf today. We got a lot to talk about, my friends. A lot to talk about. College football. Welcome, everybody watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, any of the platforms that we're live on. The groups that allow us to share later some of our favorites you always see scrolling at the bottom, but we think all of them is getting to be hundreds. And this show is one of the better watch shows that we have, along with the Sunday Stream of Conscious, the MLB Update, the Jack and Keith Weekend Playbook, all of them well received. Special thanks to John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities. We'll skip Greg Rawlings, although he's a great supporter of this show at America's Pastime, but it doesn't apply to the college football huddle. Flo and Can at the where? Bottom Line Sports. Let's Talk Sports, where Flo and the gang do their podcasting. Ralph Williams. I'm sorry. Let's go to Ken Krause, Golf Bud, Sports of All Sorts. And a special shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media. Specifically, Ralph does some good stuff. Pittsburgh, kind of Pittsburgh-centric, but it's got a national footprint, especially the Sports Corner with Smoke and Jim Frazier every Tuesday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Anyway, sorry about that. I'm trying to get into the mode. I'm not used to doing shows on Tuesday, and we may move this show to Tuesday at 6 o'clock. I don't know yet. But anyway, we welcome everybody who's watching us a day early. Lots to talk about last week, man. As we talked about a little bit on the Sunday show, Penn State absolutely falls on its face. The first team in 40 years to lose, to be ranked in the top 10 and lose to an 0-4 team. Texas and Arch Manning fail. We'll talk about that. Miami dominant for 3 quarters, but they don't put their foot on the throat of some of their competitors. They're very, very good in all facets of the game. Excuse me. And we'll see. They did jump over Oregon. Sorry, Paul Spada. But you know, we'll talk about the rankings, and we'll talk about some of the fallacies in the rankings. Check out Michael Dighton Edwards' article on TGI Sports Talk today, just about that. Bama beats Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt not as bad. This game was much closer than the score was, and I think Diego Pavia would probably wish to take back the comments he made before this game. It probably caused Bama to score a touchdown with 17 seconds that they didn't need, and cost me a bet. Belichick at North Carolina embarrassed by Clemson. Some funny Bill Belichick deep fakes out there, by the way. Check them out. I would play them tonight, but there's too many F words. Texas Tech wins again. Our military academies, 2 faced off against each other as Navy beats Air Force in a back-and-forth game, and Army beats up on UAB, so congratulations to them. We'll talk tonight about, the rankings, the group of 5 situation, who's alive there. To me, there's, I think, 4 or 5 contenders that we can talk about. We'll look at the Heisman a little bit. We'll go around the country and look at the conferences because there's starting to be some interest in looking at that. Maybe a bubble watch. ESPN posts a bubble watch, and it's going to be important these next few weeks, by the way, as we get to this first committee vote, which will be coming up, I think, the first Tuesday in November, if I'm not mistaken. Michael can probably straighten me out there. It's probably in his article. What is this, by the way? Live viewer comments show up on StreamYard. This is an example. Click on the comments to show it on live screen. No kidding. Why is StreamYard telling me that? Something new. Anyway, JB, good afternoon and good evening to you. How are you, my friend? Who do you follow in college football, JB? I don't think I've asked you that before. Can Notre Dame be stopped? Hello, Chris F. Grave up in Ontario. I've told you before that Notre Dame's got, who do they have this week? North Carolina State. They beat up on Arkansas. They beat up on Boise State last week. They're going to run the table. And if they do run the table, they're in the playoff. You guys can, hate on, and I'm not saying you are, Chris, but people are going to hate on Notre Dame and they're going to talk about their schedule and blah, 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 blah. Well, the fact is going to be that they're going to be in the playoff if they run the table. Good afternoon, Brian. How are you? Make sure you check out Brian. Don't forget, Brian, I won't be able to make it to the Unprofessional Professional Sports Show tomorrow, but check out Brian and James and Bo tomorrow night. And maybe Tip will be with you guys. I don't know. But check that out. Tailback USC. Good old days. Ricky Bell, Charles White. Just a couple of names, right? We go all the way back to, everybody's favorite double murderer. Marcus Allen. Ricky Bell. Great player, by the way. Great player. Don't tell Danny Fuller that you're a USC fan, though. Wow. Oh, please don't forget. Please, as I said, check out Michael Dighton Edwards' article today. It's very relevant to what we're talking about here right now. We're going to look at we'll look at the standings a bit. I want to actually let me recap last week's big games for you. Miami rolled for 3 quarters, rolled over Florida State, as I said. Georgia handles Kentucky pretty convincingly. They go on the road this week in what could be an interesting game at why is my face so bright? My God. What could be an interesting game at Auburn. Vanderbilt at Alabama. Before the game, Diego Pavia said, and I'll see his name different probably every time I say it, so don't get your panties in a bunch, okay? He said this game won't be close, which is why I believe Alabama did not kneel on the ball with 17 seconds left and ran for a touchdown. Keith gets a bad beat. We talked about Texas and Florida. Florida's got some talent, guys. Billy Napier did this last year. They started off slow. We all talked about firing Billy Napier, as we have. That's become an annual ritual. And then they play well. They've got a really good defense. They've got a lot of talent. Langway played very good. And Florida, upsets Texas. Listen, Texas started out Penn State, and we know Penn State lost to UCLA, by the way. They could have won this game, by the way, but some terrible play calling at the end of the game cost them, besides the fact that Drew Allar is just not that good. We all get hung up on Arch Manning, who's 21 years old and starting for the first time in his life, except for a couple of games last year. He threw 90 passes before this year, guys. But we don't really seem to have a problem with third-year starters who are also top 5 Heisman candidates in Drew Allar at Penn State and Cade Klubnik at Clemson. We don't seem to have a problem with the fact that they stink. Arch is playing better than either one of those guys. So get off Arch's back. He's only part of the problem here. Has he played great? No. Has he played awful? Not really. Some bad turnovers. Arch will get better. Arch is not going in the draft this year. It was unlikely he was going in the draft unless he set the world on fire and was going to be an overwhelming number 1 pick, which was always a roll of the dice. You didn't see me predicting that, and it's silly to predict it anyway. Similar to the polls that we talked about before the season. Now I think they're relevant. In any event, Texas loses to Florida. Boise State goes to Notre Dame, gets beat by 20. Some of the games that we had written down here. Louisville gets beat by Virginia, a really good Virginia team. They beat Florida State 2 weeks ago. They've moved up in the rankings. Who's the second best team in the ACC is a relevant question. Texas Tech beats Houston. Texas Tech is the only team left in the country. I think there's 15 undefeateds, right, if I'm not mistaken. I see your comments here, Alan. I'll get to them in a second. And Michael, I see you there as well. Welcome to the show. Texas Tech is still the only team in the country who has not trailed once all season. Them and Miami were the last two teams. Miami did trail against Florida State. Mississippi State loses at Texas A&M. Listen, the SEC is going to cannibalize itself. We're going to get 3 lost teams in this playoff. I'm almost certain of it. Good evening, Mr. Dighton Edwards. How are you, my friend? Again, check out Michael's article. Very relevant to these conversations every Tuesday or Wednesday whenever we get together. It's officially Texas Hate Week. I saw somebody, who was it that posted Alan today? Can we root for both these teams to lose? I have nothing against either team. Alan, I'm sure, thinks I do, but I do not have anything against Brett Venable and the Sooners. Maybe John Mateer plays as Alan has talked about him getting ready maybe for the Red River rivalry this week, which we'll talk about as well. Big game. Every week's a big. There's, half the slate is big SEC team games. Also some big Big Ten games this week as well, which we'll get into in just a little bit. No, Texas, again, as I started to say, and I probably lost my train of thought a little bit, Alan, Arch Manning is probably the least of the problems here. There's no running game other than Arch himself, and part of that is because the O-line is not very good. And you've seen flashes. If you've watched enough of Texas this year outside of the Ohio State game, he shows flashes pretty much every game of what he can be. Now, maybe he'll never be that. And is that the end of the world? No. But he's one of the bigger disappointments this year. I mean, where are the disappointments? Arch Manning, Bill Belichick. This was a nightmare waiting to happen. And I'm not sure he's sticking it out 5 years to right the ship here. That team is really devoid of talent. And I would play them if they weren't really kind of laced with, I don't mind playing a profanity here and there. Just put the kids away, but they were pretty much laced with it and some sexual innuendo and whatnot. But there are some very funny deep fakes of Bill Belichick, number one, resigning, and some other press conference material of him after this Clemson game, which I thought was really funny. I'm sorry. I like inappropriate humor. I'm sorry. So anyway, I wish you good luck. Sorry for the my voice seems to go up and down today. I'm excitable. Good luck to you, Alan, and your Sooners. John Mateer plays. I got a chance. I don't think they win without him myself. And now you have to deal with an Oklahoma defense that leads the SEC and in some cases the country in a lot of major categories. Fair. That's fair. Here's what's going to happen, though. At some point, they're going to jump up and they're going to really bite somebody in the ass. I promise you it's going to happen. We're going to say Texas is out of this. Texas isn't a playoff team, and which we're saying now, barely hanging on to the a ranking. Penn State's fallen right out of the rankings this week, as they should. But somewhere they're going to step up and they're going to beat somebody. Could be this week. And we'll review the 10 games that ESPN gives us to pick as well. Now, again, you know what, Brian? And again, please read Michael's article, because what it really is dealing with is the idiocy of preseason polls, right? I go through them here because they're there and people care about them. I get it. But there's nothing. I mean, you look at I think Michael does. I don't want to take away from his article. But he'll take a look at who the top 25 were and who they are now. Every year. I think the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. And again, if Michael's article touches on this, I'm not sure because I haven't read it myself yet. I posted it and I was busy all day, played golf, and had to take a nap afterwards. I was very, very tired. What was I talking about? Oh, the polls. I think the last 4 years, the top 25 preseason poll has had half the teams not, well, roughly half. I know you can't have, 12 and a half teams. Half the teams have not been in that poll at the end of the year. And every year somebody from the top 10 falls all the way out of the poll. I had predicted Georgia this year. It turns out right now, anyway, it's Penn State. And it might be Texas. And, and to your quite specific question, I mean, because nobody sees them. There's no preseason games. There's, they play a spring scrimmage and there's practice. Nice scrimmage internally, right? It's a spring game, I should say. But, nobody knows what all they know is, what comes out of the publicity departments of these schools. Lots of cooler temperatures on the way this weekend for college football. That's true. That it's been a weird season for football. It's been a weird season for weather. We've been in the 80s as much as we've been in the 60s here, mid-September till now. In upstate New York, we're going down to 60 something tomorrow. The high will be 58, I think, on Thursday. The next day, I'll be on the golf course. And that may allow for some better football. Who knows? But that's not the problem for Texas. They're used to the heat. They need to win this week. If they don't, you can only. If they don't, you can see them only 7. Well, if they don't win, they're probably not making the SEC title game. That's for sure. And they do have Georgia and Texas A&M on their schedule. Listen, I'm not a big fan yet of Georgia. Georgia's going on the road. I'm not a big fan of Georgia on the road. At Georgia at home right now, formidable. On the road, questionable. Georgia at Auburn this week is not a given. And I'm not sure where that Texas game is. I think it's in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Penn State's out of the as we mentioned. James Franklin, by the way, now there is some chatter. He's got a $64 million buyout still on this long-term contract that they signed him to. He's 4-21 against top 10 teams. Now he's losing to teams that are 0-4. And James Franklin made every excuse. I talked about this Sunday on the Big Football Show and my show. It's one thing to go there and lose, but to stand up in front of the media afterwards and not just say, boy, we sucked today. I sucked today. The coaching staff sucked. The players sucked. Everybody sucked. No, he has to make excuses about the tough game we played last week, the tough turnaround in getting ready for this week's game, the travel. Listen, talk to your league officials about the travel. Don't go to UCLA, one of the worst freaking programs in the country at the moment, and lose, and then tell me about the travel. Go to your president of your commissioner of your conference and talk to them about why I'm flying to the West Coast to play football from Happy Valley, Pennsylvania. And don't make excuses. He made at least 4 excuses before he said anything about, we just weren't ready to play football. Penn State, Texas, and Clemson were all top 4, now unranked. Great call, Alan. Again, check out Michael's article. Good afternoon, John Gonzalez. Indiana and Oregon, sorry. Yes, probably the game of the week. Especially since Texas has fallen off the map. I would say that is the big game, and we're going to find out. Because right now, I'm not so sure how good Oregon is. They went to Penn State and won. Great win. Now I don't know if it's as good as I thought it was, though. OSU, Illinois is a good game, too. Bama and Missouri is a good game. You got some good matchups this week. We'll go through some more of them in a little bit, including where we stand in our ESPN pool as well. Can Texas What? What's AN, Carlos? I'm not sure. Arch? I don't know what that is. I'm going to say no right now. Texas is playing in Georgia. They'll lose in Georgia. Texas A&M. Oh, Texas A&M. Yes. They got a really good coach. They got a really good quarterback. They got a really good defense. They got everything they need to compete in the SEC. What's the rest of Texas A&M's schedule look like? I'll be honest with you. It might be the best team in the SEC. They got Florida this week. That's a pretty good matchup. 7 o'clock in the Swamp. Not easy. At Arkansas. Why is Bobby Petrino back at Arkansas? I understand they need an interim, but all they can, again, we're Danny Fuller tonight. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about interim coaches that are dangerous. Firing your coach midseason, they fire Sam Pittman. They bring back Bobby Petrino. He was there on the staff. I get it. But they bring him back to the head coaching position where he left in disgrace. And now if he has any modicum of success, the fan base is going to want him back, and you are in a very difficult position if you're the athletic director and the president of this university. They're at Louisville. I'm at LSU. They're at Missouri, both tough games. They've got South Carolina at home, and then they finish up with Texas after playing Samford at Texas. So tough. Listen, nobody's going undefeated in the SEC. They're going to lose one of those games, but so is everybody else going to lose something as well. We did talk about that. Sorry, John. What did I say? Did I not say Indiana and Oregon? If I didn't, I apologize. That's in Oregon, by the way, that game. We'll find out. Listen, Indiana has played really good football. They blew out a really good Illinois team 2 weeks ago. They go and survive in Iowa. Iowa's not a terrible football team. Always a good defense. Always good special teams. No offense. They survive a tough game on the road. Now they've got a really tough opponent on the road. And we'll see if Kirk Cignetti complains about the travel, Coach Franklin. And the next Summer Olympics, flag football will be an event. Not sure where the athletes are coming from. They should take flag football players. That's what they do. We talked about this a couple times on, I think, the Unprofessional Professional Sports Show. I think they should go take flag football players, not NFL players or college players who don't know how to play that sport and might get hurt or might not win. John, I'm with you. Miami's going undefeated. Their toughest game might be at Pittsburgh late in the season. By the way, they get 21 first-place votes. They cut into that Ohio State lead in first-place votes. Here's what Miami has left to John's comment. They're off this week, second bye in 2 weeks. Interesting. But they got Louisville at home. They should win. They've got Stanford at home. They're going to win there. SMU, sneaky game there. SMU really good last year, not nearly as good this year. Still have they're very good quarterback. That's a tough spot on the road. Syracuse at home. They'll be getting some revenge off of that season ender last year that cost them the shot at the ACC championship. They've got NC State at home. They've got Virginia Tech on the road, who's not any good. And again, two interesting road games, John, but I agree that the U is going undefeated. It was too warm to put my U top on today. I apologize. You've got to lose respect for Franklin, Michael, right? You can't go in there and just make excuses. The first thing you say is, we stunk and I stunk. James Franklin needs to go to Wyoming or like a Boise State. He may look to get out of this contract. I've read some articles this week that people close to him are saying maybe you want to consider, and there's probably going to have to be money involved for him to leave. He's not going to leave $63 million on the table. He can get fired. They got to give him $63 million. And he did a great job at Vanderbilt, and maybe he'll turn Wyoming around, or maybe he'll turn. I think it snowed in Wyoming last week, by the way, while it was 90 everywhere else. And Boise State doesn't need turnaround. They already got a really good coach. But there is some talk that Franklin may ask around about Arkansas, about Virginia Tech, and some of these other jobs that will come open in this next several months. I did mean Unhappy Valley, Brian. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Well, he was in a power conference at Vanderbilt, and he did a great job at Vanderbilt. He can't be anywhere where he's expected to win national championships or compete for them. So he can coach a power conference team, just not one that's expected to do a whole lot. The guy did a great job at Vanderbilt. He's not a bad football coach, but he's tight. You know, I said the same thing about Dye before. Before he turned things around and won his national championship. When coaches coach tight, players play tight. I love how Pavia plays, and he is a fantastic leader, but you got to shut up. I agree 100%. You got to be smarter. By the way, you're going to Vanderbilt, which is one of the better academic institutions playing college football. You would think he'd be smart enough not to poke the bear, as Michael says, 100%, and in turn take money out of my pocket, which is secondary. But Oregon needs to play more SEC teams. Well, listen, you're not going to see a lot of great interconference games because all these conferences are going to 9 games starting next year. You've already seen some interconference matchups scheduled, canceled, I should say, that were scheduled, canceled. Miami just canceled their home and home with South Carolina because if you've got already traditional out-of-conference matchups, Oregon's going to have Oregon State, most likely. If they don't, that would be sad. And then they're going to play 2 cupcakes. Well, Oregon State could be classified a cupcake this year as well. But these intra. Oh, now I'm mixing up my English. These out-of-conference matchups are going to get to be less and less outside of traditional rivalries and made-for-TV matchups and such. But, you're not going to play, 12 power conference games. And if you're going to play 9 in conference, there's 9 power conference games. And then you're going to play maybe one more against a traditional rival, and that's going to be it. Kansas at Texas Tech this week, I think. I like that one too, Mike. Alan. I had this down as one of the games to keep an eye on this week. Texas Tech, again, has not trailed. The only team in the country that has not trailed all year. Kansas has a very good offense. Don't play a lot of defense. I'll be looking very hard at the over-under if this is on our cigar box list, which has been, Shannon, if you're out there, can we have a couple more games, college games on Saturday? Please, I'm begging you. Because I usually do very well on Saturdays, and I'm not because my choices are very limited. But I like Kansas. Lance Leopold, this might be it for him there. Not sure how much longer he's going to stay. Bobby Petrino gets more chances than Trump. Okay. I think Bobby Petrino is probably a worse guy than Trump, quite frankly, and that's pretty bad, right? So that comes from somebody who doesn't lean that way. I say Beck wins the Heisman. It's got to be close. If Mateer comes back this week, I think if he misses the Texas game, it's going to be hard for him to make up ground, but I think he's in it. The only problem is John, and Carson's playing lights out. He didn't play great against Florida. They didn't need him to play great. But right now, I would say he's among the best top 3 players in the country. I know Michael likes this kid from Missouri, the quarterback, but he's not going to get the attention. That's his problem. And he might have some competition at his own school, quite frankly. As I was thinking about this today, I don't know where it went. I had something I pulled up. I think Miami may end up with a couple of contenders for that trophy, but Carson Beck has played great. Now, NFL teams don't line up to make Carson Beck the number 1 pick in the country, or the number 1 pick in the draft, I should say. You guys got to stop taking quarterbacks in the top 10. I know it's a sexy thing to do, but it's not the prudent thing to do more often than not. Has it worked out with the last few guys? Yes, a few of them have worked out, a few haven't. You got to stop. Sark did the same thing with what? You're talking about Bobby Petrino? I would say that Petrino's had more chances than Sarkanian. Sark had trouble at USC. He had an alcohol problem. He owned up to it. He got help, and he rehabilitated his reputation at Alabama like a lot of guys have. Bobby Petrino, on the other hand, has left one NFL team hanging, sends a text to his players saying he resigned after 15 games for the Falcons, went to Arkansas. Not only was messing around with a co-ed who was on the staff, maybe she was a co-ed. She might have been a grad student. But they get into a motorcycle accident, and he has the most awkward press conference I've ever seen. I don't think it's fair to compare Petrino and Sark, quite frankly. They're similar, and it's okay to get second chances. And that's what Sark got, was a second chance, not a third and a fourth, because Petrino got another chance at Louisville, and except for 1 year, fell on his face there. The last 2 years were atrocious at Louisville. I don't know why Arkansas fans would be clamoring for him anyway. They had really good records when he was there. But we don't need Bobby Petrino if I'm an Arkansas fan. Yes, Ty Simpson has been very good. I was actually searching for his name, couldn't come up with it. Thank you, John, because similar to preseason polls, I poo-pooed any chance that Ty Simpson was going to be a Heisman contender or that he'd even be one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I had and my method for coming up with this was, I had a formula for this. I thought about today's landscape, and I said, what fifth-year senior is getting his first chance to play at the school he's been around 5 years? If he's any good, anybody who's any good would have left a long time ago for in the portal, for NIL money, for whatever, a chance to play, whatever. You don't wait around 5 years today to play. But after a rough start against Florida State, again, missing a bunch of offensive linemen, his top running back, Alabama's obviously better than we thought they would be. Certainly, I picked them before the season. I did pick them to make the playoff. but they were atrocious against Florida State. Now they're playing great football, and so is Ty Simpson. In fairness, I have to eat some crow there. Happy birthday to Billy Rafter. He would be 130 today, product of Syracuse. Played the position of B. What is B? Bench at 155 pounds. What is B? Michigan USC is another interesting game, Brian. I'll give you my games that I think are interesting here. I like Ohio State, Illinois. Very interesting game, by the way. Bama against Missouri, as I said earlier. Indiana, Oregon, we talked about. Oklahoma, Texas. NC State, Notre Dame. All of these Notre Dame games are interesting because they have to run the table, and they really can't afford a real nail-biter. They probably shouldn't get any in the games they're playing. Florida, Texas A&M is a really interesting game. Florida's got talent. We saw last week. They can probably beat anybody. So Texas A&M's got to be on their toes. Kansas, Texas Tech, interesting game. I like Georgia, Auburn because I think Auburn is going to have a fighting chance to win this game. Georgia is not what Georgia was. Forget about the Kentucky win at home. Think about the Tennessee game on the road. Think about the Alabama game. Not saying they lose, but don't discount Auburn. Michigan USC, very interesting. I think it was Brian that brought that up. Michigan fan. USC had played really good football, and they had the misfortune of having to travel to Illinois after Illinois got their asses thoroughly whooped against Indiana the week before in a humiliating loss. And they lost on the road, not surprisingly, to Illinois. So Michigan, now 15th in the country, gets a chance to go there. Bryce Underwood coming off his best game. They're starting to take the chains off him a little bit, the training wheels off, if you will. Him and Slayen as well. So anyway, I think that's an interesting game. I like USC in this game. I don't think it's a bettable game for me, though. South Carolina at LSU is interesting. James, I don't think James is with us, big LSU fan. South Carolina has been very up and down. We talked about disappointments. Arch Manning, Bill Belichick. I'll add South Carolina and Florida to that list, along with Penn State and Texas. It's a long list of disappointments this year. Some other interesting games outside of the top 25. Well, this one's in the top 25. South Florida is going to play North Texas. That has group of 5 ramifications. UCF and Cincinnati. Cincinnati trying to play their way into that Big 12 race, are in it right now. Listen, Nebraska's win against Cincinnati looks better and better and better, and might play into Nebraska's future down the road. Maryland will play at Nebraska, which is an interesting matchup. Maryland nearly beat Washington last week at home. Has played much better football this year under Mike Locksley than they have in the last couple of years. East Carolina at Tulane. Tulane, a competitor. I think the group of 5 playoff pick is going to come from the Mountain West, UNLV, or maybe 4 teams in play from, and maybe more in play from the American. South Florida, Tulane, North Texas, Memphis, UNLV, as I said, out in the West, and Navy in the American. Navy undefeated, one of the 15 undefeateds. Might be the team Notre Dame has to worry about. You go to the big house next year. I don't know how many more of those are going to be. That's your home and home. That'll probably be the last of that, right? They could probably cancel it, but I'm sure Michigan wants their return trip. Beck winning the Heisman won't be hard to do this season. Hey, there's James with us. Yeah, well, actually, he might wrap it up early if he continues to play like he's been playing, again, outside of the Florida game. He's not going to play against really tough competition. And unless, again, the only guy I see beating Carson Beck right now is John Mateer. And I heard Mateer has also bet on himself in the Heisman race. So, breaking news. I kid. Big winner of conferences, biggest winner of conference cannibalizing sells, Notre Dame, 100%. Notre Dame's going to end the season with 2 losses, most likely. Unless they lose to USC or Navy. And you can't see Navy beating them. I believe that game's at South Bend. Yeah, we talked about the 9-game schedules that everybody's going to have in these power conferences. It's going to get harder and harder for Notre Dame to continue some of these rivalries that they have. USC's already on the ropes. That would be sad if that went away. That game's been being played since long before I was watching football. Well, a decade before I was watching football. Michigan State, right? All of the ACC. What happens to their handshake agreement or whatever, the scheduling agreement that they have with the ACC? That might go away. Listen, it works out about 10% of the time is what I'm saying about taking quarterbacks early. It's working out for the Patriots right now. It's working out for who? It doesn't work. Didn't work for the Jets. It didn't work for the 49ers. There's a guy I wanted. Bo Prabula, who I keep forgetting his name. Missouri quarterback was at Penn State, stuck behind Alar. I would agree 100% that he's better than Alar. Alar has regressed. He played better last year with lesser talent. Penn State went on a bit of a spending spree, if you will, for wideouts and running backs. They took a kid from Syracuse who was one of the best wide receivers in the country last year, and Alar's playing worse. He was terrible again last week. Play calling part of it, yes. By the way, this is still ridiculous as well. This shouldn't happen until after the championship game. There should be no movement, and I don't care about the semesters and they got to get registered and all that. They can figure it out. They can figure out anything they want. But while games are being played, kids should not be transferring. End of story. I know that's a big difference. That window used to open up in mid-December. But Alan, while the NCAA's done that, kudos to them. They haven't gone far enough. It should be after the championship game. Carson Beck, according to Fox Sports, is the favorite to win the Heisman. He should be right now. I think he is, according to Bet ESPN as well. I just ran by somewhere. I had an article here. Should you bet on Carson Beck to win? Carson Beck is plus 600. This is ESPN. Last week he was plus 1,200, so he's made a big jump. You should have bet him last week, by the way. You got a much more value out of your bet. Hardy, the running back out of Missouri, is now plus 3,000. That's a big line. That's the only other one I have. They're the two biggest movers this week, though, because he went from 3,500 to 3,000. Who's the other? Hold on. Let's look at what'd you go by here? Fox Sports. Let me see. Heisman odds. We got to get to some other stuff here too. Let's go to the big lead. Something arbitrary. This is not what I wanted. All right. Fox Sports doesn't come up. All right, let's see. How about the Palm Beach? Can you just give me a list? Somebody give me a list. Carson Beck, 6-1, as I just said, plus 600, same thing. Dante Moore, second, 8-1. Dante Moore's played really good football. Dante Moore, outside of Carson Beck, the best quarterback I've seen play football this year is Dante Moore against Penn State. The only real competition he's played against. He is, by the way, 8-1, as I said. Ty Simpson and Jeremiah Smith Jeremiah Smith is a wide receiver from Ohio State, 10-1. Trinidad Chambliss, quarterback from Ole Miss, is 20-1. And that's your top 5. Big difference from what we saw before. I meant Sark did. Oh, I'm sorry. Sark did the same as James Franklin, made excuses for why they're playing so bad. Hey, listen, Sark, again, there's no excuses. Coach them up better. I blame the coaching staff for a little bit of Arch Manning's problems as well. You know, and again, I know you can't blame coaches for everything. This is a kid, though. This isn't an NFL quarterback. Coach them up and get better players. By the way, college football doesn't want to go the way of the NFL and have nobody have good offensive lines because you won't see good quarterback play or running games. Petrino not a fit to be a leader of any program, 100%, Michael. Maybe a trustee of state prison. That's a stretch. Maybe he can run security at that school that Billy Napier is going to be going to. Missouri beats Alabama this weekend. Big call for Michael Dighton Edwards. I don't disagree. Auburn, a team that can't block air. You have a problem with Auburn. I'm not sure why. Your team has no history with Auburn other than your quarterback going there. I'm not sure what your biggest issue is with Auburn, Alan. But Auburn's better than you give them credit for. Your team's very fortunate to have beaten Auburn in my mind. But at the same time, I'm also hearing Hugh Freeze is not feeling the love at Auburn, and he may be on that wish list at Arkansas as well. There you are, James. How are you, my friend? Big game for your team this week, too, by the way. South Carolina, that offense has got to show up. 15 points against Ole Miss 2 weeks ago. I hope in the bye week your overpaid head coach finds a way to get it done. University of Toronto's varsity blues team off to a 1-7 start. The history of the team dates back to 1877. Maybe Penn State needs to play them this week, Chris, and get themselves righted again. You got 5 teams in the American that are competing. I don't think UNLV will get in based on that, especially if they rank multiple. Well, first of all, you got to be ranked ahead of whoever. So only one team out of the American is going to get considered, and that's a team that wins. And similar to the Big Four, the Power Four, the American might cannibalize itself a little bit. UNLV, meanwhile, could go undefeated in the Mountain West. So while they're competing, they're competing against 5 teams, yes, but they're really only competing against one, and that's the team that comes out of there. And the team that comes out of there better not have more than one loss, or they're not going to get ranked ahead of an undefeated UNLV team. If that happens, again, they've got to run the table too. Beck's plus 500 to win the Heisman. Mateers, it depends on where you look. Again, ESPN had them plus 600. Should have been last week when they're plus 1,200. DraftKings didn't have the Heisman futures. That's where I usually will do wagering outside of the cigar box. Mateer's at 3,000. You know what? Mateer's a really good value pick right now because if he plays this week and plays well and beats Texas, he's right back in the hunt. He'll be back in the top 5. Beck, Dante Moore, Jeremiah Smith, and John Mateer are top 4. It depends on where. Again, guys, it depends on where you look. I just looked in 3 different places, and they had 3 different top 4s. Beck was in all of them. Moore was in all of them. The other 3 were different. I think actually Smith might have been in all of them as well. So it maybe that's your pick. Is that your picks, Alan? Then that's fair. I don't think those are your picks because I think you'd have John Mateer higher because you are a bit of a homer. Fair is fair. I'm going to give Beck a little bit of an edge because in some regards I'm a homer. Although in fairness to me, I think I'm less of a homer than most people. I'm very hard on my teams. Wait till Miami. And if you don't know that, if you don't think that's true, go back and watch a lot of my shows about Miami and about the Patriots and about the Yankees, who played 8 o'clock tonight, by the way, and backs to the wall. Blame the Auburn fan base. They remind me of the Eagles fans. They remind me a little bit. And again, there are a lot of college programs that think, and I think we've talked about this a couple of times, right? There are some fan bases that think that they have a birthright to, a run at a national championship every single year just because of who they are. Auburn's not one of them, but their fans think they're better than what they are. Auburn's had really bad stretches of football. They've had really good stretches of football as well. Under Pat Dye, under Tommy Tuberville, even under Gene Chizik. They won a national championship. Gus Malzone, they had some good years. They've also had some really bad years under all of those guys. Not so much Pat Dye. But there's a lot of schools that, again, really, if you're not, and we talked about this, I'll give Oklahoma, the historic program label. I'll give Alabama that. I'm not giving it to LSU. I'm not giving it to Miami. Miami had a 20-year run of great football, mostly great football. 10 years, it was absolutely phenomenal. In the 80s, early 90s. Then they had a revitalization in the early 2000s. But for that 20 years, from 83 to 2004, they were mostly great. But outside of that, since then and before then, very mediocre. Right? And there's a lot of programs like that, Auburn being one of them. I think LSU's one of them. I mean, Michigan is one of them. It is a historic program. Alabama, Notre Dame, USC, Ohio State. I guess I got to put Penn State in there, but you're right about Auburn fans. I mean, that's why Hugh Freeze, again, he didn't win a national championship. He's been there a year and a half. I have not heard about him being hurt anything seriously, Michael, other than the normal bumps and bruises at quarterbacks get. Maybe James knows a little something I don't know, but nothing that should be causing this offense to score 15 points against one of the worst defenses. And to be fair, I guess Mississippi's played better defense since their first couple games of the season, but still, 15 points isn't getting it done. Neil, our resident South Carolina fan, says LSU is going down. listen, and I'm sure you feel the same way, Neil, that South Carolina's been a bit of a disappointment, but they are a team similar to Florida, similar to where Texas is now. They're going to jump up and bite somebody, and LSU could get bit this week if they're not careful. I still like Shane Beaver. I got a bad feeling, Neil, I don't know what you're hearing from down there, but I got a bad feeling without a really strong kick to the end of the season that Sean Beaver might have a hard time keeping that job or might start looking elsewhere. Arkansas. I don't think he wants to go coach Virginia Tech. That feels like that doesn't feel lateral to me. That feels backwards. Maybe not. It's tough to go where your dad was a legend anyway, I think. And I don't think they should fire him. Don't get me wrong. I think Shane Beamer's a really good coach. Neil, did you get a chance to watch and J-Train and Rick's not with us tonight, Sherlock, but any of you SEC fans need to go watch ESPN. I think it's All or Nothing. They followed the SEC last year. Tremendous job with this, I don't know, six or eight episode documentary basically on last year's SEC season. It was really good. You see a lot of Shane Beamer in this. Well, I think his number will go down if you're talking about the odds, but as far as where he ranks, that should go down too. I know it's up. Yes, I agree 100%. LSU should bounce back this week, according to the J-Train. Running back Caden Durham is healthy. Nussmeier's oblique should be better. There's your injury, I guess you were talking about, Michael. He's been off, and it's likely attributed to the lingering injury. Got a play through injury, so. Any warming up to Dave Portnoy? No. I got to start doing pizza reviews or something, right? I mean, Portnoy doesn't do anything we don't do on our shows, and except he's a bigger blowhard than I am. And he's, running a freaking $500 million media empire over there at Barstool. Not sure what he brings to the Fox. Fox brought him in. I'm going to say Fox brought him in as a answer to McAfee, right? That's my opinion. But McAfee brings more to the table than Portnoy. You just do your pizza reviews. I enjoy your pizza reviews, Dave. But other than that, and the fact that we're fellow Patriot fans, not a big fan. Tigers chew up rooster for breakfast. Neil. Beamer get an extension. I hope so. He's a good coach. They'd be silly to let him get away. I know there's been through the last couple of years, before last year's big finish, if you will, some rumblings in Columbia that some powerful people weren't happy with Beamer. And hopefully that's changed. And this year's slow start hasn't really affected him because this is a guy who knows how to coach and build a program in my mind. South Carolina is another team that really shouldn't get too, no offense here at all intended. They shouldn't get too full of themselves and think they should be contending for national championships every year. When you get a quarterback like they have, and Sully's, you would think this is a year they should have, been all in on winning, though. And, these are the kind of years that can hurt coaches today because there's not a lot of patience because of the money involved, just like every professional sport, which is what we're looking at now. And there's going to be, after the things that we've seen with Mel Tucker, with Brian Kelly, with John Franklin, with Jimbo Fisher, these giant contracts are going to be a thing of the past. You're not going to see 10-year, $120 million, $120 million contracts for these guys. It's not going to happen. So, and fan bases and alumni bases have got to get their head around the fact that, not every program deserves to be able to say we're competing for a national championship every single year. Hello, Ed in Columbus. How are you, my friend? Penn State and James Franklin getting Sandusky. They got caught with their shit. I have to say, the subject matter is questionable, but funny is funny, and good. Portnoy can have a blowhard contest with McAfee. I'm sorry, I've warmed up to Pat McAfee. I really have, for the most part. There's times he's a little bit overboard, but I've come to like him on game day. I don't like his podcast as a rule. I don't like some of his shenanigans, but I think he's fit in well with the game. Game day's been my the only pregame show I watch. I don't watch professional football. I don't watch baseball. I don't watch basketball. I don't watch any pregame shows. Game day, I have watched religiously for 35 plus years, probably. And I'm upset when I don't get to see it. So anyway, let's look quick at our standings since Neil's here. I think Neil's been doing pretty well. So, oh, shoot. I think I had it up and I took it away, and then I'll give you my picks. And by the way, these 10 games that come up, ESPN puts them in some randomizer. I'm not sure how they do it. So for the season, and nobody's setting the world on fire, but Beamer Ball, Neil Bush, and Alan, Boomer Sooner, both of them with us here this evening at 32. Guys, let me know what you think about this 6 o'clock Tuesday slot too. I'm considering it. I've had a few suggestions to maybe move it to Tuesdays because I've had to move it for personal reasons. I couldn't do the show Wednesdays. If you like it this time slot, let me know because we want to have as many of you in the room as we can. And I'm wondering if maybe we don't see Danny because it's a little early. It's only 3 o'clock when we get started out on the West Coast. I don't know. Anyway, good job so far from Neil and Alan, 32 wins apiece. Michael has got 31, as does J Train, who's making quite a comeback here. Nobody did well last week again. Then we get into the 500 mark already. In the fifth place is Rick. Boston Paul's at 29. If you ain't cheating is at 28. Pesky, that's Danny. If you ain't cheating, I think is Brian. They're tied at 28. We got a generic guy at 27. I got me at 27. Oh, my God. Last week I had 3. Scott Kobe, who threw a lot of shade on this group that he didn't get in because he didn't want to kick our asses, has averaged about 40 since he's got in. By the way, the last few weeks have been atrocious for me. So you can imagine my pocketbook is taking a beating. 6 led the way last week, by the way, with Rick, the generic ESPN guy, Boston Paul, all at 6. And then we had a bunch of guys at 5. Keith and Scott pulled up the bottom at 3. I've had 3 the last 4 weeks. I mean, how bad is that? Let me give you my picks from the pool, and we can talk about some of the other big games still. I still want to get into the poll a little bit. I'm going to go with Michael Dighton Edwards, and I'm going to take Missouri over Alabama this week. Go against the trend there a little bit. I'll take the home team in the tough SEC battle. I'm going to take Oregon, Paul, so we can relax if you're there. I'm not sure Paul's with us. I think he said this was a good time for him too. Don't know. But I haven't seen Paul. So that's why I don't know if this is such a great time. Alan, you're going to dislike me, but I am going to tell you that Texas is going to show up this week at home, and they're going to win this game. I'll take TC over Kansas State. Kansas State, another team, has been a huge disappointment this year. I'll take Iowa State to bounce back this week over the really putrid Colorado Buffaloes. Coach Prime does say he will coach this week. He's had to have some medical procedures for some blood clots. Remember, he underwent treatment for bladder cancer a lot of this spring and summer. So we wish Coach Sanders well. I'm going to take Nebraska to beat a better than you think Maryland team. I'm going to take, this is why I got 3 wins a week, right? I'm going to take Auburn to beat Georgia. I'm going to take USC to beat Michigan. I'm going to take BYU on the road against Arizona. And I'm going to take Utah at home to beat Arizona State. Big 12 wide open once again. Maybe we'll get a chance to take a look at that here in a second. So put those. I'm going to go through the poll right now, and you guys can put up some more comments or not. It's up to you. And then maybe we'll look at some of the conference. Yeah. I know what I'm saying. Hold on. Let me get to somehow my rankings went away. A lot of movement once again. Number 1 stays the same, though. I believe less first place votes this week. Ohio State's number 1 with 40 first place votes. Miami could do this a lot better if that would not get in my way. Miami with 21 first place votes. Not so shockingly jumps over Oregon, who was off last week, similar to what they did to Miami the week before. Are these rankings all that important now? No, they are not, but they will be in a month or so. And we will, by the way, start using the playoff rankings once we get to that point. Ole Miss stays at number 4. The one team that's still question mark of these top 5 for me is Ole Miss. 5-0, though, is 5-0, as that fat bastard used to say. Your coach, your record is what you are, what your record says you are. Oklahoma, number 6, they dropped a spot. Indiana moves up 1 to 7. Alabama up 2. Texas Tech up 2 to number 9. Georgia back in the top 10 at moving up 2 spots. LSU, everybody's moving up here. LSU up to 11. Tennessee up to 12. Georgia Tech, without playing, I believe, last week, moves up 4 to 13. Missouri, who we just talked about, moves from 19 to 14. Michigan up 5 spots, 20 to 15. Notre Dame on the move. As I said, watch the other teams fall backwards. Keep winning. You'll keep moving up, and you'll make the playoff if you run the table. They're at 16. Illinois moves back up to 17. BYU on with a bullet right now. Moves up 5. Virginia up 5. Vanderbilt down 4 after their bad. And, again, the game was much closer than the final score, but they still at the end of the day lost 30 to 14. Arizona State moves up 4 to 21. Iowa State drops 8 after a bad loss. They lost 2 of their top cornerbacks. Cincinnati's better than we think. Cincinnati just missed the poll this week. Memphis was not ranked last week. They're up to 23. South Florida not ranked, up to 24. So there's those 2 American teams, both ranked. Nevada, Las Vegas right now is 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32 in this poll. So not far behind Memphis and Florida State to our earlier conversation. Just missing out and falling out of this poll, by the way, both Texas and Penn State out of the top 25. I thought Texas had held on. I don't know why. Cincinnati and Texas just on the outside of number 25. So there's your rankings. We can take a quick look around the conferences here if you'd like. The American, as we start to now get some games played, but still, some of these conferences, some of them teams got 1 game played. In the American, Navy is 3-0, Memphis 2-0. They got a bye this week. By the way, they're 6-0 overall, and Navy's 5-0 overall. North Texas and Tulane, somebody's going to take the beating there. Tulane's already lost a game, not in conference, but out of conference to Ole Miss. South Florida's got a loss to Miami, a bad loss, much worse than Tulane's loss. So you got 5 teams, as Alan said, gonna be in play there in the American Conference. In the ACC, Virginia, Duke are both 3-0. I don't expect, to me, Miami's the best team in this conference. It's going to be a race to see who plays in the championship game with Miami. And you've got Virginia alive. You've got Duke alive. You've got Georgia Tech, who's really good. You got SMU, who didn't get off to a great start. They're just 3-2, but still 1-0 in the conference. And that's, the other, you got a bunch of teams with one loss. So they're not out of it. Louisville, Cal, Pitt, Stanford, they're not going to be in here, though. I mean, these teams are not going to be there. Other than Louisville, I'm not going to give any of these one-loss teams any shot at the championship game. And nobody with 2 losses, I don't think, is going to make it. The Big 12, again, 4 teams in the top 25. BYU coming out again, playing really good football. 5-0 overall, 2-0 in the conference. Texas Tech, as I said, still hasn't trailed in a game this year. 5-0, 2-0 in conference. Arizona State has a loss on the road to Mississippi State. Won't hurt them in the conference race. Cincinnati, surprisingly, their only loss is that loss opening week to Nebraska. That win looks better and better for Nebraska, guys. Cincinnati playing really good football, running the ball like crazy. Iowa State, who was all the rage early in the season, has fallen to number 22, and they are 2-1 in conference now after losing to Cincinnati last week. The Big Ten, Indiana and Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, all 2-0. Of the one-loss teams, you got to watch Illinois. You got to watch USC. Again, don't take the eye off the ball of Nebraska. So to me, it's Ohio State and whoever finishes second. Conference USA, Western Kentucky, Illinois, Louisiana Tech, 3-0 and 2-0 respectfully. Delaware in their first season at 1A, or what we used to call 1A, 1-1 and 3-2 overall, though. Independents, there's only 2, UConn and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, the only one with a chance, obviously, at any playoff considerations. Mid-American, you're not going to have any playoff considerations. Buffalo, Western, Michigan, both 2-0 and leading that conference. In the Mountain West, logjam at the top. Fresno State actually leads at 2-0. UNLV, undefeated overall, 5-0, 1-0 in the conference. They're going to be getting heavily into the conference here. Again, UNLV goes undefeated. They're going to get the group of 5 nod, because I don't think a 1 or 2 loss American Conference champion is going to be ranked ahead of Vegas at the end of the season. Just don't think that's going to happen. The Pac-12, which is an exciting 2-team race of 2 teams that really stink. No games have been played, and the 2 teams are not good. Southeast Conference, Ole Miss at the top at 3-0. You got 2-0 Texas A&M, 2-0 Alabama, Missouri, Oklahoma still undefeated in conference as well. In the Sun Belt, the only conference left with divisions, James Madison, 2-0 in the East, 4-1. I guess theoretically, somebody could still come out of the Sun Belt if they were to run the table here. James Madison was a good pick early in the year. I think they're the only team that I would consider to have a shot out of here, and that's only if they run the table from here. But still, I think an undefeated UNLV team is still a good bet to get that. So there's your look around the conferences. Hello, Earl. How are you? What's up? How are you, my friend? Earl, you've been with us before. The name looks familiar to me. Let us know your school if you haven't. How about Navy? Navy's playing. I've said Navy. Navy's one of the group of 5 teams that I think have a chance. Southern Florida, North Texas. This is almost an elimination game for these teams in a way this week. Memphis, who's undefeated and has got a good win against Arkansas. UNLV and Navy. Navy's season is going to come down to, well, maybe they play well, maybe they don't have to beat Notre Dame. They can't get blown out by Notre Dame, and they got to win the American Conference. James Franklin, your first question there, Earl. It's 63 million reasons he's not going to get fired, probably because they don't want to pay out $63 million to tell him to go away. That's what's left in his bio. The last I checked. Another year, that'll be down another 10 million, and maybe they think about it. But not everybody's going to pay $70 million for somebody to go away like Texas A&M did Jimbo Fisher. Depends on how deep the pockets are of the alumni. I'm sure that Penn State's got some pretty deep pockets in that area, but I'm not sure what they'll do. You did, Georgia, right. Sorry, Earl. I try to remember. It's easy for me with guys like Ed in Columbus, right? Good to have you with us again tonight, though, Earl. We got about 12, 13 minutes left. 63 million reasons, right? It's a shame. What else is going on around? We talked about Petrino. We talked about, and Earl, if you got something you want to, you got a topic you want to jump into, we can, even if we've been there. How about the bubble watch? What is that? Let me check this bubble watch out that ESPN is making a rage. 12 teams in currently in their bubble watch. The SEC, here's their bubble teams, by the way. And the SEC bubble watch, LSU and Missouri. If the playoff were to be today, they predict Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and A&M would be in. That's ridiculous, by the way. 6 teams. So half the playoff will, and this is what these conferences want, by the way. Half the freaking field to be them in the Big Ten. On the cusp, LSU, work to do, Missouri, Vanderbilt would be out, Arkansas, Auburn, obviously the rest of them. The Big Ten. The spotlight is on Michigan. The enigma is USC. If the playoffs were to start today, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon in. Agree, I guess. On the cusp, Michigan. Work to do. Illinois, Maryland. Maryland's not going to get to the playoff. Nebraska. I did predict Nebraska to make the playoff, remember. USC and Washington. No surprises in the outs. ACC. Miami would be in if we started today. Georgia Tech on the cusp. Work to do, Virginia. No surprises in the teams that are out. Up maybe Florida State, but they played their way out. Big 12, if they were to start today, Texas Tech would be in. On the verge would be BYU. Work to do, Arizona State. Arizona's not going to get there. Cincinnati, Houston, unlikely. Iowa State, I would say unlikely now, unless they win the conference. TCU and Utah. No surprises in the outs. Independent would be out today. They won't be out the end of the season, I would say. Notre Dame. Group of 5 would be in today. Memphis, as they are the number 1 ranked team, but they've still got to win that conference. So I got to go back. When you think about some of the teams that are left out here, and again, I realize you're saying if it was today, right? 6 teams from the SEC are not making the playoff. 5 would be a reach. 6 are not making the playoff. Notre Dame is not going to be left out of the playoff if they have 2 losses to a 3-loss SEC team, which one of these teams would have to have 3 losses, I got to believe. So your Georgia team needs a big win versus Auburn before going back home versus Ole Miss in 2 weeks. They play well at home. Again, they still feel close. Again, they're not Georgia, circa 2 consecutive national championships. They're not that good. They're still a good football team. They're going to struggle on the road. See Tennessee. They're going to play well at home. See Kentucky. Probably see Ole Miss. I think they struggle this week against Auburn. I'm not saying Auburn's going to win this game, but I think Auburn's going to give them a little bit better fight than people think. At least Allen Perales. Thanks, and proud of yourself, Earl. So they feel good going into the game versus Ole Miss. Yeah, I get it. Listen, Lane Kiffin's got to beat. He finally beat LSU. He still hasn't beat Alabama. He still hasn't beat Georgia. I believe they missed Alabama this year. And I don't think he's going to do it this year. I like his team. They're playing better defense. And quite frankly, they might be better than a team that really looked good last year before they imploded at the end of the year. But they still have to show they belong. Super Conference is coming. Europe's soccer model of promotion and relegation. Sorry to repeat, but it's coming. You can repeat it. It's a fact it's something that will be on people's minds until it happens. And it most likely will. And I've talked about this too, Michael, and I'm going to say it again, just because, again, it's a bit redundant. In some ways, a super conference of 48 teams, let's say, I'm going to throw a number out there. It could be 48. Could be, I think it's got to be some even easily divisible number, I think. It might bring back, in a way, regional football the way it was intended to be. Because once you get out there, I think what will happen is you'll get 48, 58, 60, whatever the number is, 32. You get a team in the West. You get a team in the East. You get a team in the Midwest. You get a team in the South, or divisions, I should say. Maybe it'll be set up like pro football. And maybe there will be relegation and delegation, or relegation and promotion. It's going to be interesting, though. I mean, what happens, because everybody has down periods, right? I'm not sure how soccer actually, I know the premise is you play better, you get promoted, you play bad, you get demoted. I get that. But, all of these programs, I talked about Alabama before Nick Saban. They went through 20 years, except for a couple of years with Gene Stallings, where they struggled more years than they didn't. Are you going to relegate Alabama? Are you going to relegate Georgia if they struggle for a few years? Are you going to relegate USC if they struggled for a few years? Miami, LSU, name the team. And all of these programs, at one point or another, will have a bad 5-year, 10 years period, or at least a down period. So I'm not sure what they'll do there, right? Hello, AC. How are you, my friend? Good to have you with us. Did Ole Miss beat you last year? My bad, then. I was thinking about them collapsing at the end of the year, and I just had in my head that they lost. You think we've had that same thought here with your host and some other followers tonight. I think Mizzou's got a shot to win this game. Michael likes their quarterback a lot. They've also got a really good running back. Now, Hardy, I think his name is, right? We're going to find out about Alabama on the road against Missouri. I still don't know. There's still teams I don't know about. Alabama, we made an assumption. Florida State, we made an assumption after that game. Florida State was really good. Alabama was not going to be good. Well, Alabama's played lights out since then, and the last couple of weeks, Florida State's really stumbled. How good is Alabama? How good is Florida State? Don't know. I'm not so sure how good Oregon is now, because they went into Penn State and won a big, big game in a tough place to win, even though their coach never beats top 5 teams, top 10 teams, top 20 teams. But still, all in all, it's a really good win. Now, Penn State goes out to UCLA and loses. I don't know how good Oregon is. We'll find out this week, I think, when Indiana travels out there, and I do think Oregon wins that game. Earl thought that Jonathan Gannon, did he get fired? That's news to me. I haven't, I've spent the day kind of looking at college football, I'm not surprised, I guess. I don't want to get too deep in the NFL only because, no, he didn't get fired. He got fined. He got fined $100,000 for getting in the running back's face who dropped the ball before the goal line. So you just got one letter wrong there. And the Bengals did trade for Flacco. We'll get into that stuff this weekend. In fact, you'll hear about that if you watch the professional show tomorrow night. I won't be able to make the round table tomorrow night, but Brian and James and Bo and maybe Tip will be there to carry that out. And I guarantee you the Bengals trade will be talked about, and probably the running back, quarterback coach spat will be talked about. So to be clear, Ed, he didn't get fired. He got fined. Unless there's something happened and it has not been updated yet on ESPN. AC is going to give himself a shout out. We like people that pat themselves in the back here. I like to do it. You'll be playing. Really? So AC is going to be playing poker on a casino live stream Friday night. Hope everyone watches and cheers for me and roots for me. I'll root for you, my friend. Where's the live stream? And where do I find it? Who is streaming this? You got to give some information. I can't find it without it. But congratulations, buddy. We wish you good luck. And I will try to watch, assuming I can find the live stream. How good is Ohio State after Texas struggled? That's another good one. I think this is an interesting game for Ohio State this week against Illinois, who bounced back nicely last week against USC. They bounced back nicely after that embarrassment against Indiana. So we don't know about Illinois. We don't know about Indiana. We don't know about Ohio. We don't know about anybody. This is one of the weirdest college football seasons I can remember. Right? Absolutely. Good luck at win enough to pay for those weekly tests. Give us some information on where this is before we go here. We got to get off in a minute or two. AC. Do me a favor, AC. Send me a private message with the link or something, and I'll post it on TGI Sports Talk on my personal page, and maybe people will be able to get to the place. If you know, just send me the information about where the stream is, okay? And guys, I'll make sure it gets posted, and we can all root for AC to make some money and make TGI Sports Talk proud. Anyway, it's going to be another great weekend of college football. Good luck to you guys, whoever you root for. Hang on one second. Best bet on YouTube or Facebook. I'll share it on my page. Do me a favor and tag. If you're following TGI Sports Talk, tag TGI Sports Talk, and I'll make sure it gets shared to my page. Okay? I appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in, Michael. Thank you to everybody. Thanks for popping in, Earl. Thanks, James, for coming in. AC, good luck. Neil, good luck to your Gamecocks. Chris, good luck to whatever Canadian team you're rooting for this week. J-Train, good luck against the Gamecock. So Neil and James are going head to head this week, I should say. Good luck, Alan, against Texas, obviously. Michael, good luck against USC. Where's our Brian? Good luck against USC. A couple of Michigan guys there. Who would I miss? If I missed you, I really apologize. I didn't mean to if I did. And good luck to Miami, who will not lose this week. They're on a bye. Anyway, Carlos, thanks for popping in. Everybody, John Gonzalez, good luck to Miami this week on a bye. Guys, we will catch you next week. I think we'll be back to Wednesday. I got to make a decision on this soon, though. We'll see you later. Keith Engle, TGI Sports Talk, College Football Huddle. Bye-bye.